안녕하세요. Exchange Chan Megan
조앤입니다. 안녕하세요. Exchange Chan 20번째 시간입니다. 네. Hi Megan, how
Hi,
do you
Joanne.
coping with this hot summer?
How am I coping?
Uh-huh.
You do what you do. You manage.
It's
what
so
about-
hot.
It is.
Yeah, it's so hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We both come from places that have kind of the extremes,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would
You came from very cold
very
area.
cold,
Uh-huh.
but in the summer it gets quite hot, and it's
In summer?
Yeah,
So hot.
it
There,
can
too.
get quite hot. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it'll get to I don't know, in the 30s for sure.
Uh-huh.
And
In the 30s?
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
Celsius,
Uh-huh.
if
Celsius.
anyone's American and
Uh-huh.
listening. But it's also humid because
Uh-huh.
of all the lakes, right?
Oh, I don't like humid.
I know. But
I
I
don't
think
like-
there's a difference, I would say, between... I can't remember. I haven't been there in many years. And I do remember the last time I was there, I came from Taiwan humidity. And then to go to Minnesota humidity, I was like, oh, this is fine.
This is fine.
It was fine. I was in jeans and T-shirts, if not like long sleeve, when people are like, it's so hot. And I'm going, put some clothes on.
Close off.
It's freezing. But, I mean, you don't like the heat.
I don't like heat,
Yeah.
but the more than doesn't like thing is humid.
Yeah, I think that's because I'm actually okay with the heat, but I do notice that I will sweat, especially because I've been very stressed. I'll sweat more just because of the humidity. And that makes it harder for me. I think the humidity, but I'm fine with heat. Like, it's actually, I don't think it's that hot out. It's just humid.
That's right.
Yeah.
The humid made me feel so down and then
Yeah.
sticky. Oh, I don't like it.
I have a hard time because I want to go on a walk always. I love being outside. I love walking. I love, so I don't know. Sometimes if I get too hot, I'm just like, let's just go on a run and get it all out. Like, let's just be extreme about it. But yeah, how are you managing?
Managing this summer humid weather.
Yeah.
I just, just to stay home,
Yeah.
sitting in front of the air conditioner. And anyway else, you have?
Do I have tips?
Uh-huh.
I don't. Maybe it's me having lived in Europe for a while. Maybe it's me mostly being poor all my life and worrying about the air conditioning bill. I don't like to keep it on, but I also don't like. Yeah, I don't
Not
always like the
healthy.
cool. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. My health suffers. I was in a cafe yesterday and I was literally shivering. I was so
Shivering.
hot,
So
and then I was
cold.
shivering, going, "Wow, this is not
In the
okay."
middle of the summer.
And I'm not a smoker, and so I don't go outside to like do that. And I was sat busy working. Like I can get so into what I'm doing. I'll be sat and I go, "Wow, it's 3 hours later. I forgot to even pee." That's a problem. Actually. A short little story, but maybe TMI. But I actually gave myself a UTI, a urinary tract infection, and was bleeding blood, like peeing blood. But bleeding blood, you bleed blood. But I was peeing blood because I would just sit and work on things, and I just wouldn't get up to use the toilet. It's a problem. I get really focused. Anyway, what I do is because I sleep better in the cold, as I think most people do. I will actually put on the air conditioner at night. And I will just be in it. And if I can tolerate it, sometimes I do wake up and I have to turn it off because I am too cold. But I will turn it on just at night or just before I go to bed for a few hours. And then it's off in the morning. And it'll kind of be cool in my place. And I have the windows closed, everything, so the humidity doesn't come in. Right? And the dehumidifier is going. So it's kind of this, okay.
So a little bit drier condition.
A
you
little
can wake
drier,
up.
yeah. And then if I do, because it is quite hot, I'll turn it on for like an hour or two, but then I turn it off and the place feels nice and I have a fan going. So that kind of circulates the cool and it's okay. I have
Good idea.
I stay in a small place, right? Also, I don't wear a ton of clothes at home.
What?
I don't really wear clothes at home. Stay cool.
Stay cool.
don't know. And you just kind of accept that you're going to be a little hot. So I kind of adjust my schedule to be doing things that will make me feel okay. Yeah. So I just like kind of sit and sweat and like work on art. And then I go out when I need to. But that's it. Yeah. So don't wear clothes and maybe have the air conditioning on sometimes and a fan. And I do take cold showers in the morning.
Cold shower in the morning.
Freezing cold showers in the morning.
Freezing cold shower.
Yeah. And if I've been like out
right after waking up, it feels too cool.
Well, where I live, it's like hot. You get in my bathroom and it's hot. And so it kind of feels good. And sometimes even if I've been out all day or like walking or running or whatever, I need to come back and take a cold shower.
Yeah.
If I'm washing my hair, that can get too cold. But if it's just a rinse for like 5 minutes, easy. Yeah. It's also, I mean, I don't do it fully as like the cold plunge. Some people take the cold plunge. It's for health. It's this. I don't do it in that way. I come from more of like a somatic trauma healing place. It helps me trust myself more of like, hey, I can do this hard thing of getting into hot or getting into cold, something cold, but I got myself. And so it's a little bit of that too.
So you do that. You do that in a very short time.
Yeah. I mean, maximum
5 minutes?
I've maybe taken like a 7-10 minute shower.
10 minutes. So within 10 minutes.
Yeah. I'm not sitting there for a half hour. Also, that's a waste of water. So
a waste of water. Wow. So frugal.
I am like, the more I realize some things about myself, I'm like very anti-capitalist, anti-consumption, I care about the environment.
Minimalist.
Very minimalist in a lot of ways. Some of it's been forced just because I've been so poor. But a lot of it is just like how I think. I like to cook a lot. People will call my lifestyle healthy and this and that. And I don't like to look at it that way. It's just, I don't know how I function. And sometimes, it is like, girl, do something different.
Do something.
Like maybe eat or like maybe you can have a shower. But no, I don't know, care.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
What are we talking about today?
Yeah, and then today's topic. Today's topic, as I think, as English education in various countries around the world. What am I talking?
I don't know. So I got you so off track with like, hi, be naked in your house and take a cold shower.
I forgot everything. So at first, I'd like to know. So I will begin with some kind of question to you.
Yeah, go for it. But I'll have questions for you too, because you learned English as a second language.
Yeah, so, it's a second language.
Yeah, and I've been a teacher, and it's my native tongue, so this will be fun. So go ahead.
Okay. At first, I'd like to know how English education in the United States differ from other countries. I mean, a huge number of people are going to America to study English, and then I understand that they could take the biggest advantages of being exposed to English everywhere in daily life.
Okay. Yeah.
So besides that, I want to know how English learning programs in the United States differ from English education in our country. Have any ideas about that?
Well, I'll say a couple things and then we can go from there. One, I don't know what kind of programs someone is in when they go to another country and maybe learn, right? So there's that. I didn't have that yet. With any language learning I've done, I haven't gone somewhere and fully learned a language in an institution. Haven't done that yet. That hasn't been how I've learned. Two, how you and I learn English are different, right? Like you're talking about people going somewhere to learn English, usually as their second language, unless it's unless they were raised bilingual or mostly bilingual, right? So that two. Three, well, how do you learn Korean? Right? It's like Korea. It's like that. And then sure, we can talk about the American school system because I grew up in America, and so there's that difference. But it's more, how do you learn your mother tongue? That's how I learned English.
The same as the way I've learned my mother tongue in our country.
Yeah, exactly. So if you would go, or even if how you would learn from me would be different than how I would learn, how I've learned English. Same as where if I learn Korean from you, different from how you learned Korean, which is I think why we sometimes there's been a hard time of people who come as English teachers who don't have any pedagogy and meaning, I don't know if everyone knows that word. Pedagogy is just teaching.
Kind of
it means to educate, to teach. I had to learn that word, so I'm saying it as like
pedagogy.
I didn't know that until like my early 20s. I did not know that word. And so it's not everyone has any kind of teaching, pedagogical education. And so they're coming going, hi, you should be able to learn how I learned. And that's not the case, especially if you're someone like me who I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. I learn. I'm an intuitive learner. I go 1-10. 1-10. I know what it is, and I don't always know how I got there. I really learned that I was like that for the first time when I was tutoring someone in math, and
mosquito.
No, it's not a mosquito. It's a little gnat. It's a gnat. It's a little gnat, so it's not going to bite you. It just was on your face briefly.
Scary.
Scary. It's tiny. If it was a cockroach that flew on your face, I'd say, wow.
Don't say that.
There are cockroaches in my house. Not nice.
So you caught that.
I try and kill them, or they're on the wall and I just like deal with them. Okay, gross, y'all. I saw one last night and it just like crawled into a little crack and I'm like, wow. How many of your friends live there?
How many friends?
How many? How many friends do you have? Don't invite them over. We're not having a party. No one invited you.
Maybe it has a lot of kids.
I hope not. Like, ew, we have a problem with too many people on the earth. Like, too many things. Like, stop having kids. Have some birth control. Stop it.
Control. Okay.
Anyway, what was I saying? But yeah, it's people just don't. When I was like, I don't think everyone has. I was talking about how I just learned quickly, and so when someone was asking me how to do math, and I was like, I just know this makes sense to me. This just makes sense. I don't know how to teach it to you because I don't know how to teach someone to have it make sense. You know, because when you're trying to teach something, you need to go through different steps with different learners, and I've learned that along the way. I purposely took time to learn some pedagogy and to learn how to explain the things I know. I've worked at that. But I think that can be an issue when you're trying to teach a language or where there's difference of the education systems you're talking about. It's just also different kinds of learning and you have to teach differently. So yeah, I would I don't know how you learned Korean in school, but I'd say it'd be more similar to how I would have done English. Also, your whole education is in the same language.
Okay, then I will explain about the how we Korean have learned English in our school system.
Yeah.
In Korea, you know, as far as I know, our English education began as a way to acquire knowledge and information from other countries. And then because our country wasn't at the...
I'm listening, just drinking coffee.
Oh, okay,
Thank
doesn't
you.
matter.
Go ahead. You're going to hear me gulp.
Okay. Wasn't very advanced in many fields. There was naturally a lot to learn. We urgently needed education focused on reading comprehension and grammar.
Okay.
And since then, our education system hasn't changed much. So until high school, we still follow this system. But after that, conversational skills are now being emphasized a lot. So many people eventually choose to study abroad.
Okay.
So that's the matter. So kind of there must be some kind of gap between the two situation. And then as we all know well, changing a country, the system is not an easy task.
No, I think any kind of change takes time. If something happens within like 5 to 10 years, that actually is quite quickly. So yes,
you said
I mean, we were talking about this earlier before we started recording about you know, sometimes certain systems are made where certain people get to be in power, certain intelligences, certain things get power, position, whatever, money, any of that.
That's
and
right. A lot of things.
and some people don't want to
like
give it up, right? Right? Like,
don't give up.
Like, yeah, hey, okay, you got to this certain status because you can do grammar and reading and blah, blah, blah. But now we're trying to bring in other things that, you might have more competition. Some people can't handle that. Whatever. Sure. That's a whole other discussion that maybe that's another topic we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, you need to be able to talk. And having grammar and reading skills so meaning vocabulary, grammar, super helpful. But even with writing, you do need a bit of creativity, and especially with speaking. You need you need to have the knowledge of grammar, and you need to have vocabulary. You need to have listening skills, just like with any kind of speaking. You need to be able to listen to someone, right? Even in your native language, like start listening. Yeah. So it is a hard sometimes, especially when we're talking about Korea, and Taiwan was this way too. And I know other places in Asia are like this as well, of test scores, not as much focus on conversation. But honestly, some of my favorite students were the ones who were a bit...
Taiwan got the same
for sure.
situation
for
as
sure.
ours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's they were occupied by Japan as well. And then they have some American influence. They also are from a lot of immigrants from China. And so it's just, there's an influence there, right? So but some of my favorite students were those that were just kind of a bit rowdy, and they would talk at me and make all the mistakes, and yet, but I knew they were learning.
They are learning.
They're learning because they're putting it into practice, into daily practice. Yeah.
That is the most important thing.
I think so too.
To practice more and more.
And to not be scared. Because I also am, I do it too, where I've been scared to speak a language because you don't want to make a mistake and you want to be understood. You don't want to look silly. And that, just as with anything, it's learning to get over that little hurdle and speak.
Okay. 네, 제가 지금 메간에게 질문을 하기를 미국에서 영어를 배우는 배경이 우리나라에서 영어를 배우는 배경과 좀 다르지 않나 싶어서 질문을 했었는데, 첫 번째 질문을 근데 메간이 얘기하기를 그 모국어를 배울 때, 어린아이가 모국어를 배울 때 그 엄마나 주변에서 그 아이에게 해주는 그런 아주 셀 수 없이 많이 연습하게 해주는 그런 배경으로 자기네들도 모국어를 배우고 있고, 그리고 제2 외국어를 배울 때는 조금 더 다르잖아요. 모국어가 형성된 다음에 제2 외국어를 또 하게 되는데, 그런 거랑 똑같이 미국에서도 그런 식으로 모국어, 영어는 우리가 한국어를 배우는 것과 똑같은 그런 모국어 수많은 연습을 통해서 그거를 터득하고 있고, 그 다음에 제2외국어는 또 외국어로서 우리가 모국어가 형성된 다음에 또 배우는 방식으로 배우는 우리와 비슷한 방식을 취하고 있는 것 같습니다. 그리고 또 하나의 질문이 우리나라에서는 그 문법이나 독해에 너무 치중하는 것 같아서 우리나라의 그 어떤 특별한 그 특수한 그 배경이 있었잖아요. 그래서 그 영어를 그렇게 배우게 된 배경을 조금 설명해 주면서 어떻게 생각하냐고 했더니 그거가 물론 말하는 것도 중요하지만 그 문법적으로 그리고 독해 위주로 배운 것들이 많이 도움이 되니까 그것도 굉장히 중요한 거라고 메간은 얘기하고 있네요. 네, 역시 언어에는 어느 하나 중요하지 않은 게 없는 것 같아요. 그러니까 한쪽 어느 하나가 모자라면 그만큼의 실력으로 형성이 되는 거잖아요. 그래서 여러모로 다 실력을 두루두루 갖추는 게 아주 중요한 것 같습니다.
Thank you for doing all of that yet again.
My pleasure. I want to listen to a piece of 음악.
음악 is music.
Yeah, 음악 is music in Korean.
Well, thank you. Great. Let's do it. Okay, our first song today is Supergirl by Crystal Harris.
Crystal Harris.
Enjoy.
칼국수에서 이렇게 깊은 맛이? 진한 국물의 사골 칼국수와 만둣국, 가시를 하나하나 발라낸 부드러운 사골 황태국, 김치 하나까지 손수 담가 내오는 장인의 정성이 듬뿍 담긴 음식들, 따끈하고 든든한 한 끼 팔방 칼국수에서 만날 수 있습니다. 푸짐한 전골에 30년 비법의 수제만두 한 접시를 곁들이면 모임이나 회식도 오케이. 남가자동 이웃들의 입맛을 사로잡아온 백년시장 맛집 팔방 칼국수에서 사계절 변함없는 맛과 인심을 누려보세요. 팔방 칼국수 0507-1450-2398 0507-1450-2398
And you have already experienced the English teacher in some other countries, right?
Like being an English teacher or meeting English teachers?
Being English teacher.
And, well, I've done both.
Yeah.
Yes,
Meeting
yes,
English
I do.
teacher.
I do.
Yeah.
I have both.
And did you notice anything unique or any particular atmosphere regarding English education in other countries?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the environment, how different people who speak different languages learn differently and the mistakes they make, or how you need to teach compared to their native language. Yeah, lots of differences. Yeah.
So would you please explain?
Do you want
a
more
little
explanations?
Uh-huh.
So I mostly have taught people English who are from various Asian countries. So I used to teach online a bit to people who are in China, but also a bit in Japan. I've taught in Taiwan, and here I have a private tutoring exchange. It's no money, but it's just, hey, I get to use the pottery space. I teach you English. Equal exchange, cool. And I've also taught tutored a bit in Europe, so Germany mostly, or Switzerland, and I've also been a tutor, but also an editor. So one of my specialties is getting people who where English isn't their first language to then help them with their writing, so that they still have their own voice, but helping them also have correct English, correct enough English, so that they can apply for things and participate in English speaking opportunities. So, okay, I have all of that. I mean, I don't know. What are you wanting to know, like particular things? As an English teacher, I think I mentioned it briefly before about how I think a lot of people who historically have come, especially to Asia, to teach English, and they don't have any pedagogy, don't have any teaching experience. They just know the language as their mother tongue, and then they try and teach it. And even some of the materials aren't always helpful for people who maybe don't have it. Maybe I'll say it this way. I was very young when I first left and I went to go teach, and I could tell right away that I didn't have pedagogy or teaching experience. And I learned pretty quickly that most of the people who were teaching, I mean, this is over 10 years ago now, most of the people who were teaching were they were dudes, just some dudes doing dude things. And they weren't good teachers. And I didn't want my incompetence and ignorance to affect students, because I wanted them to make sure they had good education. So I would make sure that I'm outside of teaching hours learning the grammar things, because like I said, I'm an intuitive learner, and so I'd go from 1 to 10. I don't know why I would do certain things in English, so I needed to teach myself the correct wording in order to teach kids certain grammar. Like, oh, this is why we do it. I knew we did that. I didn't know the names for why we did it. So there was a bit of that in it too. I wanted to make sure, because kids here, I would say, I would argue, but for sure in Taiwan is most of my experience. I think it's quite well known that kids are supposed to learn, and they don't always have time to be kids. And I noticed that pretty quickly. And so I wanted to give them good education, but I'm also coming in as artist. And I want to make sure a kid's a kid and that they're creative. And so I also did end up taking some art education a bit in my university, and then I also just have learned about it in my free time. Just also the importance of play. And so I would either maybe against the rules stay outside a bit longer, or go to the park when we're not supposed to go to the park because a kid needs to play if they're going to learn better. So I would try and bring in some psychology, some neuroscience to like just even the little bits that I know in order to better teach a child. So I noticed, let's say maybe I noticed the shortcomings of the English teaching systems here. And or
shortcomings.
And just like with any, like we said, systems are kind of in place. I think having a native speaker is helpful. I think if those native speakers are going to teach, they should have the responsibility to then, even if they don't, I don't think you always need, for sure, only need an English teaching background. If you're willing to learn how to teach a bit and be an effective teacher, I think that's what's most important. Yeah.
So you think that even though we have, a very confront, a very serious, the strict atmosphere to learn English, but you think that we need some kind of natural psychological
I think it's just any kind of education, really. Like I think education in general, I come from the States, which literally the education system was made to breed workers and to breed like even with the whole bell, like it just isn't conducive for learning actually. And so it's more of a critique of how education has been for a while now. I have at the pottery studio, there's a lovely woman who is Swedish, and
Swedish.
Yeah, and she's been a Montessori teacher. That was her career before she retired. And so she has a different approach to teaching. And then I also lived in Finland, where there is a different approach to teaching, and they have some of the highest test scores. If not, I think they have been number one in education for a long time, because there is play and there's a different approaches to learning. So it's not just like, the English education system is bad here. It's also, I think, the education in general hasn't always allowed kids to be kids, and there hasn't always been a creativity. Then again, I will say, as someone who hasn't, when I learned languages, I more so went like the whole creative, mostly speaking route instead of, I did have a base, I know German, and so I learned a base of grammar and base of reading, of course, and vocabulary. But I was thrust into a situation where I was staying with a Swiss family, and they pretty much told me, okay, we'll give you 2 weeks. We'll speak to you in English, and then no more English, just German. And I go,
just German. After just only 2 weeks.
Good luck, right? So I now know that my speaking skills are actually better than my reading and writing at this point.
So how could you estimate the kinds of education systems?
I think it helped me. Obviously, I can
it
was very helpful and very effective. But I think, like with anything, people have to want to learn, even if it's just for survival, right? You have to have a motivation. You have to have I needed to know what people were saying. I needed to survive, and that can be a kid too. Like you send them off, and they're thrust into a situation where like, I need to survive. I'm in Canada, in the middle of nowhere, in this family, and these people are obviously saying things. I need to survive, right? So you have that, right? But there also needs to be a grounding in grammar, reading, vocabulary. So there's a mix. Yeah.
네, 제가 지금 외국에서 메간이 여러 나라에서 영어 선생님이셨기 때문에 그 나라에서 그 영어를 가르치는 데 있어서 좀 특별한 것들이 있나 하고 물어봤는데요. 영어를 배우는 가르치는 데 있어서 좀 메가는 좀 그 자연적이고 그런 방법을 더 선호했던 것 같아요. 그러니까 그래마를 문법을 가리키고 그렇게 강압적으로 하는 것보다 좀 놀아가면서, 그러니까 아이들을 대상으로 교육을 시켰기 때문에 좀 자유로운 분위기에서 그다음에 실질적인 외국인과 직접 대화하면서 그러니까 실질적인 장면에서부터 영어를 배우는 걸 추구하는 그런 선생님이셨던 것 같습니다. 그리고 자기도 그렇게 독일어를 배웠는데 굉장히 좋았다고 얘기를 하네요. 그 방법이 아주 효과적인가 봐요. 우리도 그렇게 될 수 있나 싶네요. And then,
Thank you.
I think I want to add one
of course.
more.
Please.
And then I think that our parents' desire to learn English is also one of the reasons for the high number of students studying English abroad, I think.
Yeah. Was that a desire for you? Like that your children learn
course,
English?
why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did notice as an English teacher, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 21, so that's enough time. And I've been in a few different countries, and I've also been, I had friends at university in both undergraduate and my master's program that were international students. Especially, like I was both in the States and the UK. It depends on different countries, but some people just you have to have money right up in order to, like upfront, in order to pay for this, in order to go to school. I've been fortunate that the States, they had, like, it was student loans, and so I could pay that. But some people, like, they can't have loans and they just need to pay for. So it's usually wealthier families that can send their kids abroad.
Yeah,
and so you get that vibe too of it's the more privileged people that are learning in certain ways, and they get to go to summer camps, so they get to go do these things. I didn't grow up like that, right? And so I didn't experience that growing up. I was a good student, and I would always be invited to these things abroad, but I never could go because I couldn't afford it, right? So I then was experiencing students who could do that, and it is unfortunate too at times. Like, one, I think, great, go do it, have the opportunities, but then I also saw some parents who maybe didn't have as much money still pinching pennies just to have their children maybe go abroad, or have an English tutor. I tutored some kids who, okay, we can't afford for them to go abroad, but hi, let's have a native English tutor. And then I also noticed some students who, they just kind of accepted that they didn't have that, and some would just more so, they weren't as, you could say, I barely slept. I can't think of the word, as engaged or as committed to their English learning. So you have
engaged.
You don't have, you have a wide variety. I would like to make it obviously more, I think, with YouTube, with different language learning, it's easier. Even Netflix, there are so many ways that you can learn English as well. Social media, TikTok, all these things. You can learn English. But I mean, like I said, I learned German quite quickly because I was thrust into a situation where you got to learn to survive. So there is that. But then I also encountered some students who literally I had graduate course mates who they didn't really have an English education because they would write all their papers in their native language, pay someone else to translate them into English, and that's it. And then you couldn't fully understand, like, they didn't fully get the most of their education, which is not a dig at them, because I also understand I didn't get the most out of my education because I've been surviving. In my undergrad, I had to leave really scary circumstances with family. And then in graduate school, I'd been surviving for so many years, I couldn't fully dedicate myself to my education as much as I would have liked because I was still like floundering to survive and not knowing when I would eat, alongside doing a master's, alongside like family issues, all that. And so it's kind of the same with that. You can't fully get into your education. But I understand, but you have to want to learn is the biggest thing. The woman that I have that exchange with at the pottery studio, we had a shift in our learning together and our time together, because now that she's at a more stable part of her business. She's like, okay, I really want to know English, and so we're like, okay, let's ground all this conversation that we've been having and get a book, and let's do that more so that you can, because she's dedicated to learning, but needed that time to kind of, and I didn't want to push her because she was just building her business. But now once I heard like, hey, I want to learn English, I'm like, okay, let's ground the fun creative part in a book, and that's just needed some time. But then
so she is so motivated,
right yeah, she's very motivated to be able to speak English. I always say you need to have cheeky conversation, but you can't fully do cheeky conversation if you don't know grammar and vocabulary, and people learn differently. I'm someone who learns more on the fly in certain ways, and okay, she needs a book, let's get a book. So we're going to do that. So I think there's a bit of all of that going on. Yeah.
네, 제가 지금 그 한국에서도 많은 부모님들이 그 아이들을 그 외국에 영어 공부 때문에 많이 보내시잖아요. 그래서 그 아이들이 영어 공부를 하러 외국에 가는 그 이유 중에 가장 큰 원인 중에 하나가 부모님들의 어떤 강한 열망 그런 것도 있다고 얘기를 했더니 메간은 뭐 그런 것도 다 중요한데 본인이 얼마나 동기부여가 되어 있는지 그 어떤 환경에 딱 처해서 거기서 살아남으려면 영어를 하지 않으면 안 되는 그런 환경 그리고 그런 어떤 본인의 어떤 열정 이런 것들이 가장 중요하다고 얘기를 하네요. 네, 굉장히 중요한 얘기인 것 같습니다. 저도 100% 동감을 합니다.
Thank you. Can I add one more thing? I think it's great that when parents can gift that to their children, that education. I think education should be more accessible as someone who hasn't been able to participate in things because of my circumstances. And even with language learning, like I didn't learn Chinese and Mandarin and even some Taiwanese because of my circumstances of stress and survival and a bit of people don't want to speak to me in Mandarin, they want to speak to me in English. So there's a bit of that, but I couldn't afford lessons, and I didn't. My motivation was more to survive rather than and stay afloat and eat rather than teach English. And same here, I haven't fully felt safe enough in my circumstances to learn Korean yet. And so education really is there has to be a level of safety for you to feel like you can, unless it is like that's, okay, you're thrust into a situation, got to learn that survival too. So there is that. I maybe fortunately, unfortunately, I speak English, and a lot of people speak English, and a lot of the world speaks English. I would,
fortunately, unfortunately,
yeah, because I'm also in Korea, and I would love for there to be more of a push at, because I know some foreigners who've been here a while and they don't know Korean at all or barely,
but they can survive.
They survive in English, and I don't want that to be my, if I'm going to stay here, or at least spend more time here, I don't want that to be my reality. I don't want to be that foreigner, and I always felt kind of bad about that in Taiwan, but I also, you have to recognize your circumstances, right? If you are just surviving in certain ways, you have to honor that too. So yeah, it's everything all at once, all at the same time. So it's more complicated, but yeah.
Okay.
Should be song number 2?
Yeah, another 음악.
This one, I always try and be true to using artists. It's their original song, whatever. But this one just came out. And I'm not even a Disney adult. I can't remember the last time I've watched anything Disney, and I abhor Disneyland. Disney, I just get me out of there. But I have some punk rock, emo, girly in me, and the song from the Goofy movie Eye to Eye was made into a punk rock song by Magnolia Park. So we're gonna listen to that now.
Oh, let's listen.
Let's do it. Enjoy.
같은 데 After all it's only a beat away from you and me If we listen to each other's heart we find we're never too far apart And maybe love is the reason why For the first time ever we've seen it eye to eye
땀 흘려 일하는 당신의 곁에 서대문구 노동자 종합지원센터가 있습니다. 노동법 강좌와 청소년 노동인권 교육, 무료 노동상담, 소상공인을 위한 노사 관계 지원과 취약계층 노동자를 위한 문화복지 사업 등 일하는 사람들을 위한 사업을 진행하고 있습니다. 임금체불, 부당 노동행위, 산업재해, 직장 내 차별행위 등 일하다가 겪는 어려움은 무료 노동법률 상담 02-395-0025, 02-395-0025로 전화주세요. 배달라이더, 택배기사, 대리기사, 요양보호사 등 이동노동자들을 위한 슈 서대문 이동노동자 쉼터에는 다양한 업무 편의시설과 안마의자가 준비되어 있으니 이동 중 힘드실 때 언제라도 쉬어가시기 바랍니다. 서대문구 노동자 종합지원센터의 소식을 좀 더 알고 싶다면 카카오 채널 서대문 노동자센터를 검색해주세요. 서대문구 노동자 종합지원센터는 일하는 모든 사람이 존중받고 노동이 아름다운 서대문구를 만들기 위해 노력하겠습니다. 당신을 응원하는 서대문구 노동자 종합지원센터와 함께 오늘 하루도 힘내세요.
This is just a personal opinion, though.
Okay.
How do you feel for someone to use grammatically incorrect English? Do you feel like you want to correct it, or does it bother you, or do you find it amusing, or do you think it's something that can happen?
Of course it can happen. I don't
It
care.
can happen.
I don't care.
Oh, so what?
Well, yeah, I think that's great. That's well said. I think just as with any, you learn. Would you rather be learning in an environment where someone has warmth and openness to your mistakes to make you feel like, hey, okay, I can make a mistake and still be learning, or would you rather someone be cold and cruel at every mistake you make?
Oh, of course, it's the
Yeah.
former one.
Right? Ew.
Yeah.
So I kind of go about that just in my life in general. Sometimes I can be cold in some ways, I guess, but there's warmth. I think warmth is important. Plus, I'm the native speaker, and people are being generous enough to speak to me in my native language. And so even just that effort to speak to me, it takes a lot. And so I just have that humility of, you are going out of your way to have already learned something, and I grew up with this, right? I came out of the womb with people speaking English, right? And
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning, doctors, parents, everyone was speaking English. Okay?
Oh, jealousy.
Right. Well, but also I could say that about any language that I want to learn, right? Like I wish I was immersed in more languages growing up, but I was only immersed in English. And I think I am. I don't speak to my family, but I think I still am the only person in my immediate family that more fluently speaks a second language and has learned some other languages. Anyway, but I don't know them like that anymore. So but that's, I think a lot of Americans, we don't, not everyone speaks a second language. So the question again was, no, it doesn't bother me. I've had
doesn't bother
no,
you
I've had a little
all.
bit. No, now absolutely not. And I noticed that
Even in Korea.
I do notice that sometimes I understand more than I should be understanding. So I can understand someone with
More
just
understand than you should understand.
Meaning I understand a person on just vibes.
Oh,
Yeah, like
Just vibes.
Just vibes. I can have a full conversation with someone, and we are barely speaking the same language.
Is it possible?
It's possible, and it happens to me all the time. And I think it's something I've adapted to, and sometimes actually hinders if I'm trying to teach someone something. It actually happened with the woman I have been teaching English, the Potter, and we noticed it quite early when she was teaching someone else in English, and that person didn't really understand her. So she kind of would tell me, and then I would translate what she was saying. I don't really speak Korean, but like I understand her. I understand how she speaks, and I also
just
understand.
You just feel that.
I feel it, and I know I've been an English teacher, and I've had a lot of
you can read the atmosphere.
Yeah, and yeah, that one, and also I have a lot of non-native speakers who are friends, and so I know mistakes people make, and I can intuit what they're saying. Just like I said, I learn 1 to 10. Just I get it. I got you. I get it. Are there moments where I wish I had more communication? Sure, but I also accept that this is the life I've chosen, and you have to be warm to being open to that. I did have an evolution of like I fell into a bit of elitism in writing. I thought, okay, well, I also learned German, right, which is a very honest language. And so there's a sense of, oh, well, I'm using, and I use writing a lot in my art. I'm a writer, whatever. And so I like, well, this is what the word means, but we're using it this way. Why are we using it this way? We should be using it that way. So after kind of going through that little phase, I now have married the two of like, well, yes, it's good to play with language. I even make up my own words. Like you're talking to a person who makes up her own words and own grammar sometimes as I'm writing, right? And so it's that marriage of this is what the word means, but this is how we use it. And this is maybe how people will make mistakes with it, and how, so I play. And I think play is important. And especially when someone is learning, make all the mistakes. And then you learn by making the mistakes. One of my favorite things that I learned when I was learning German, I was very fortunate to live with a woman, and she would listen to what I was saying, very lovely, and I was obviously making mistakes, and she would repeat what I was saying back at me, but not in like a you missed this. She would make it part of our conversation that she was saying it in the correct way. So if I was like saying the wrong word, she would say the right word. And so I try and do that as well when I'm speaking to non-native speakers. Also, sometimes it's endearing and it's funny, but not in like a
endearing and funny.
and also not like a making fun of being like, oh, it's so exotic and weird and funny that you're doing this, because I hate that too. When people go, oh my gosh, look at this menu, and it's such bad English. Like I hate that. I just think it's gross, and I think ew. But sometimes it's endearing and funny. So and we can have a laugh because we're all making mistakes in general.
Yeah, me, I think so, like you. And then looking from my side, when I see foreigners making mistakes in Korean.
Especially. That was my question, like, because I'm nervous to speak Korean. So how do you feel?
Oh, especially those who have learned and are using dialect first. I find it very endearing, and I feel like approaching them to talk more and listen. It makes me smile automatically.
And I mean, the words you just used now can maybe come off as like, oh, some people might think you might want to make fun of them, because I've also been in circumstances where someone wants to talk to someone, and this was in uni and people were just dicks, but they wanted to talk to someone, but they were kind of making fun of them when they were speaking, and that's not nice, and that's not correct or kind, right? But you're right. I think it is. That's nice to know that you feel that way, because I sometimes get nervous to go, oh my God, I'm butchering it, or because I think it gets when people then can't understand you, because I try my best to understand a person even within not being able to speak it, because one of the most frustrating things that I've felt is like, I'm trying to say this and yet this person is like, I don't understand, and they almost like cut you off, and then they kind of say it, and I'm like, I literally thought I was saying that exact same thing, but you just said it a little bit more Korean because it's your native language, and now you can understand me. Like I'm literally sat here trying, and I had it a bit. I was kind of just already in a cranky attitude that day, but it was a friend, and I was like, come on. Like, I was literally trying for 5 minutes, and now you say it just a little bit different, and rude. You couldn't understand me for 5 minutes,
so
and now
embarrassing.
It's not just embarrassing, it's also a little frustrating. It's like
frustrating.
Get your head out of your own ass and try and understand someone, because like maybe I'm just coming from I've been doing that my whole life, and I've been trying to do that, especially as the foreigner in countries, but alas. We live in such a world.
Okay, then here you want to learn a piece of Korean dialect.
You can teach it to me. I'll try and
Okay.
parrot
I will
it, but
let you
maybe not.
have.
Please, please.
음악 하나 들으실래요?
I'm
It's the south province of the Gyeongsang,
okay.
Gyeongsang province dialect. 뭐뭐 하실래요?
하실래요?
So put some 음악. 음악 means music.
Yeah,
So 음악 하나 들으실래요?
Ah. Oh, thank you.
음악
Okay.
하나 들으실래요?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
The
sure.
last song.
Let's do it.
음악
Okay.
하나 들으실래요?
Sure. Yes.
You cannot repeat after me.
Are you asking me to repeat after you?
음악 하나 들으실래요?
Okay, one more time.
음악
음악
하나
하나
들으실래요?
들으실래요?
들으실래요? Yeah.
감사합니다.
Okay, it's your homework. Next time,
Okay.
I'll check it.
Text it to me. Text it to me. Give me a voice note. I will practice. Okay. Yes. Okay. Our last song is
And then it's our closing time.
closing song. Closing. We're all done. Thank you all for. It's been a wild ride today. Off recording, so off screen, off your ears and here. So thanks for dealing with this. Thanks for listening and enjoying.
Yeah,
our last
thanks
song
for
is
everyone.
thank you. Our last song is Miracles Happen by Myra.
Okay.
We'll see you next
Thank you.
time.
See you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.